Imagine you are pulling out of your driveway after a fresh oil change, feeling confident that you just added years to your engine's life. You spent the money, took the time, and checked the box. But within a few thousand miles, your fuel economy drops. A faint rhythmic ticking starts under the hood, and your dashboard glows with a warning light you thought you just buried. The hard truth is that the automotive service industry relies on your convenience-first habits to keep their repair bays full, often pushing generic fluids and rushed procedures that ignore your specific vehicle's engineering. This hidden friction is a silent tax on your bank account, turning a simple 50 maintenance task into a 5,000 engine replacement nightmare. It feels like an unavoidable gamble, but once you see the mechanics of how these small errors compound, you can take total control of your machine's longevity. Today, I am stripping away the marketing fluff and the outdated dad advice to give you the exact roadmap for a professional-grade oil service that protects your investment. Pay close attention because while every step on this list saves you money, the number one mistake is something almost every driver overlooks, and it is the single most common cause of catastrophic engine failure in modern cars. Mistake 7. Not doing post-service checks. You tighten the last bolt, wipe your hands, and immediately head out onto the highway at 70 miles per hour, assuming the job is perfect because the oil lights stayed off for the first 30 seconds. This haste is exactly what the lube-and-go shops count on, but a tiny grain of sand on a gasket or a hair-thin crack in a plastic filter housing can lead to a slow bleed that empties your crankcase while you are listening to the radio. To avoid this, you must run the engine at an idle for exactly 3 minutes while parked on level ground, then shut it off and inspect the drain plug and filter area with a high-powered flashlight for any glistening wetness. Even if you are worried about the extra 5 minutes this takes, remember that catching a drip now is the only thing standing between a successful DIY job and a seized motor on the shoulder of the road. Once you are sure the seals are holding tight, you still have to verify that the fluid is actually doing its job at the right volume. Mistake 6. Guessing. Instead of measuring oil level properly, you pull the dipstick, see a smear of amber fluid somewhere near the middle, and decide it is close enough to get you to work and back for the next month. This casual glance is how most drivers unknowingly run their engines 2 quarts low because they do not realize that residual oil in the tube or an unlevel driveway can give a false sense of security. To get an authoritative reading, you must park on a perfectly flat surface. Let the engine sit for 10 minutes after a drive so the hot oil drains completely into the pan, and then wipe the stick totally clean before taking a second, final measurement. Even if you think your modern electronic sensor handles this for you, those digital readouts can lag or fail, so manually verifying that the level sits exactly at the full mark, not above and not below, is the only way to guarantee your oil pump is not sucking in air. If the level is off by even half a quart, you are asking for internal friction that wears down your piston rings, which leads directly into the danger of getting the total volume wrong from the start. If you are liking these fuel-saving secrets, subscribe to the channel right now to make sure you never miss an insider tip. Mistake 5. Getting the oil level wrong. You pour in the last quart of a 5-quart jug because that is what the manual said, but you forget that a half quart of old, sludge-filled oil was trapped in the cooler or the upper head. This creates a dangerous overfill situation where your crankshaft hits the oil surface at 3,000 RPM, whipping it into a literal frothy milkshake that your oil pump cannot circulate through the tiny passages of your engine. To prevent this catastrophe, always add half a quart less than the total capacity. Start the engine for 30 seconds to fill the new filter, and then add the remaining oil in small 4-ounce increments until the dipstick reflects a perfect full line. Even if you think more is better for protection, excess oil increases crankcase pressure and can blow out your main seal, leading to a $1,500 repair bill for a leak that started with a simple 5-minute mistake. Once you master the volume, you still have to ensure that every ounce of that fresh fluid is actually being cleaned as it moves. Mistake 4. Skipping the oil filter replacement. You decide to save $10 in 5 minutes by leaving the old filter on for just one more cycle, thinking the oil looks clean enough to handle it. This shortcut is a disaster because that saturated paper element is already holding a pound of trapped carbon, metal shavings, and sludge that immediately contaminates your brand new, expensive synthetic fluid. To do this right, you must always swap the filter at every single drain interval, lubricating the new rubber gasket with a fingertip of fresh oil to ensure it seats perfectly against the engine block. Even if the old filter looks spotless on the outside, its internal bypass valve could be stuck open, allowing unfiltered grit to sand down your precision bearings every second the engine is running. Once you have a fresh filter capturing every microscopic particle, you need to make sure you aren't leaving the most basic hardware loose enough to vibrate off on the highway. Mistake 3. Improper drain plug and filter tightening. You feel a slight resistance as you turn the wrench, but you give it one extra forceful tug to make absolutely sure it won't vibrate loose while you are driving at 65 miles per hour. This better safe than sorry mentality is exactly how you strip the delicate aluminum threads of your oil pan or crush the thin rubber gasket of your filter, creating a permanent leak that no amount of tightening can ever fix. To do this with professional precision, you must always start the threads by hand for at least 4 full rotations to ensure they aren't cross-threaded. Then use a calibrated torque wrench to hit the exact foot-pound specification found in your owner's manual. Even if you don't own a high-end toolkit, simply tightening the oil filter until it is hand-tight plus a 1/4 turn with a wrench is the industry standard for a leak-free seal that won't require a hammer to remove next time. Once your hardware is secure and the fluid is contained, you have to stop relying on the dashboard computer to tell you when it is time to do this all over again. Mistake 2. Ignoring the recommended intervals. You see the sticker on your windshield from 3 months ago, but you figure that modern synthetic oil is basically invincible, so you push your commute another 2,000 miles past the limit. This casual delay is a silent engine killer because as oil heat cycles thousands of times, the chemical additives that prevent acid buildup and friction begin to shear at a molecular level, turning your lubricant into a thin, watery fluid that can no longer hold a protective film on your cylinder wall. To stay ahead of this decay, you must ignore the 3,000-mile marketing myths and the 15,000-mile extreme claims. Instead, checking your specific owner's manual for the severe weather or city driving schedule, which usually falls between 5,000 and 7,500 miles. Even if your dashboard says you have 20% oil life remaining, that computer is only guessing based on your RPMs and does not actually know if your oil is currently full of fuel dilution or moisture from short trips. Once you commit to a strict schedule, the only thing left to get right is the specific chemical formula that keeps your internal parts from grinding into scrap metal. Mistake 1. Using the wrong oil. You stand in the auto parts aisle staring at a wall of synthetic blends, high-mileage formulas, and weight ratings like 0W20 or 5W30, finally grabbing the cheapest 5-quart jug because oil is just oil. This single choice is the most expensive mistake you can make because modern engines are designed with microscopic tolerances, meaning the oil passages are sometimes thinner than a human hair, and using a fluid that is too thick or lacks the specific manufacturer-required additives will starve your upper valve train of lubrication during a cold start. To get this right, you must ignore the marketing on the front of the bottle and flip it over to verify the API service symbol and the specific manufacturer spec code, like Dexos 1 or VW508-0, listed in your manual. Even if you think your car is old and needs thicker oil to stop leaks, using the wrong viscosity actually increases internal drag and heat, which eventually destroys your variable valve timing system and leaves you with a $3,000 repair bill for a simple 30 fluid swap. If you like the content, hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Comment below with your car's year and model. Watch the recommended video on your screen right now for more money-saving hacks.